this most recent summer, I spent my summer working out at Driveline in Scottsdale. So I'm super well versed in all of this Driveline stuff. Call me Driveline certified, whatever you want. I love this stuff. I'm super passionate about it. Like 5 years ago, I was where you guys were, right? I was in high school. I thought I knew a lot about throwing and that whole deal. But I can tell you right now, you're going to learn a ton more. I thought I knew a ton, and yet I still ended up under the needle twice, having 2 elbow surgeries, okay? So what I'm telling you now is everything that I have learned after being cut open twice, okay? So I tell you these things because I don't ever want any throwers, position player or pitcher, to experience those kind of things, and I have dedicated a lot of energy to learning as much as I can about how to avoid those kind of things, and as well as learning how to just throw a baseball as hard as freaking possible, okay? So some of the first stuff I wanted to jump into, warming up to throw a baseball, okay? So I know a lot of this stuff Hick has preached to you guys for years, okay, and it might just feel a little different coming from someone who, I was playing baseball 6 months ago in college, okay? The main thing I think about when warming up is you're warming up to throw, you're not throwing to warm up, okay? So that's a huge one. Warm up to throw, don't throw to warm up. So where do we start with the warm up? First thing a lot of college guys do when they get to the field is they get on the ground and they do whatever mobility that might be. That should be intentional, okay? Whether that's I'm trying to improve hip mobility, I'm trying to improve T-spine mobility, I'm trying to improve shoulder mobility, there should be intention behind it, okay? I'm not just doing whatever, right? Once practice gets going, once everyone starts warming up, first thing we're doing is getting our blood hot, okay? So I remember going to the bullpen, and you get sent to the bullpen, and they're like, hey, we need you hot now. What do you got to do to get your blood hot first? That's always the first thing you do, is you get your blood pumping, okay? We get our blood pumping because that stuff starts to happen, and that's going to help our joints loosen up and feel a little better. We can get into the science of it, but that doesn't really matter. Get your blood hot first. Once we get through that, what do we usually do after doing our jogging, doing our stretching? We get to our bands and our shoulder tubes, right? That stuff is like activation, okay? We're turning on the muscles that are going to be used when we throw. Take that stuff serious, guys. Overhead athletes get injured a lot. Throwing is not something that you can prevent getting hurt, right? The harder you throw, the more likely you are to get hurt. Like, that's what statistics tell us. So harder guys, they are more likely to have Tommy John. But, like, that is the reality of it. So we're trying to do everything we can to prevent those things from happening. So our blood's hot, we're boiling, and we start getting into turning on our muscles, activating everything, okay? I'll get into this stuff in a little bit, but I have sort of everything you might use up here. I don't grab the spinners because I've never used the spinners, but it's not an exact science, okay? Once we sort of start getting our muscles turned on, something that is often overlooked is what we would call like potentiation, okay? So I'm about to step on a mound and throw a baseball as hard as I can. I have to have like my nervous system fired up, ramped up, ready to go. In order to do that, we need to do things to turn that nervous system on before we even touch a baseball, okay? So that might be things like jumping, like sprinting, like throwing med balls. Those are the kind of things you're gonna do like before you even pick up a baseball, okay? So you can already tell like warm up to throw, don't throw to warm up. Like I haven't even talked about throwing plyos. I haven't even talked about those kind of things. And I've already mentioned like 4 different things that we can do to get our bodies ready to throw before we've even touched the baseball. And those things are just as important as throwing a baseball, so that when you go to bed and you wake up the next morning, you feel ready to throw a baseball again, okay? So we're sprinting, we're jumping, we're getting our nervous system fired up, ready to go. And after that, now we can start doing our last final, whatever feel-good things we need to do to pick up a baseball, okay? So now into like the meat of it, the actual throwing side of things. I want to ask you guys, like, everyone here pretty much throws plyos, right? Like, that's kind of a staple of what we do here at Sherwood, which I'm a huge fan of. But like, why do we throw plyos? I want someone to just tell me like, why do you throw plyos? Someone raise their hand and let me know. Nolan, what's up?
Work on like.
No, someone else. He's gonna know. What's up, Parker?
So to work on like patterns.
Yes, I like that answer. Okay. So I think a lot of the times, a lot of people get into the habit of like, I'm throwing my plyos to warm up. Okay. But again, we can go back to warm up to throw, don't throw to warm up. Okay. So if I'm throwing my plyos so I can get warm, then I'm not getting what I want out of the plyos. Like the whole reason the plyos were created, the whole reasons that we're throwing plyos, if I'm throwing them to warm up, like now that's just an inefficient way to warm up, okay? So like the best part about plyos, this is what all of the pitching coaches preach at Driveline. This is a squishy ball that you throw into a wall in front of you, and it is about as low stakes as it can get, right? Like, I'm not going to break anything. I'm not going to hurt anyone. I'm not going to overthrow my target. I don't have anyone catching it. I'm just throwing this into a wall in front of me, and that is just low stakes, okay? So that can let us bring our attention to ourselves. So now, when I'm throwing my plyos, so I've been working with Nolan a lot, right? And me and Nolan are working on some arm action stuff. So the big thing there is when he's throwing his plyos, we have one thing that we are thinking about, okay? We don't have 6, 7 different things that we're trying to fix every day. We have one thing that for the past 2.5, 3 weeks, we have been trying to work on. And that is how it should be. Because if I'm trying to give my attention to 6 things at a time that I'm trying to fix in one day, or before I get on the mound, or same thing with hitting, before you step into a box or something, that is just going to distract you, and you're going to get worse at those 6 things because you're trying to think of too much. So when you're throwing your plyos, we're hot, we're ready to go. Then we can pick up our plyos, and we can get into our plyo drills. We can talk about those. But one thing that I'm thinking of and trying to fix, and the big one, I can tell you guys right now, the big one that you guys can all benefit from is moving faster. Moving faster, and we can get into that too. So let's kind of talk about plyo drills. Someone walk me through their plyo routine. You were throwing plyos yesterday, James, right? You were throwing plyos yesterday. What is your plyo routine that you like to do?
I do reverse throws with the black ball first, and then after I do those, I get up, I get the green ball, and then I do pivot pickoffs with those. Then I get the blue ball, and I do walking windups, and I don't know what these are called, but it's where you like go like that, and then you throw it against the wall.
Like a step back kind of thing?
Yeah, step backs, and then I do the same thing with that twice, one with the series with the blue ball and a series with the red ball. And then after that, I get like the gray ball, and then I just do more walking windups, just kind of get that motion down.
Cool. So, I love that. If you have a routine that you do, I love it, okay? The thing about it is every day when you get to the field and have your routine, have your one thing, okay? So I'm sure you don't necessarily know what your one thing is, and that's okay, right? Because we don't all have like pitching coaches that we're going to that maybe like know what they're talking about or are telling us like too many things at once. But like, I'll tell you my experience at Driveline because I was throwing the whole time I was there. Like for me, I hopped in the motion capture lab and got all the fancy stuff going on, and like I was trying to work on moving faster, specifically rotating faster. Like that was my one big thing. And so every day when I threw plyos, that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to rotate faster. Now, whether you're gonna throw the blue ball, the green ball, the gray ball, like I don't really care, okay? I think that a lot of guys should throw the light balls more because that allows you to move faster, but that's another conversation. But have your one thing, okay? And the drills that you're doing should be encouraging you to do that. And that's something that coaches, me, will help you guys come to. What should I be doing to work on my one thing, okay? So, like a fantastic routine that you guys can be doing, okay? I'm gonna get to the field, I'm gonna do my reverse throws, okay? I'm gonna do my pivot picks, and there are tons of different variations we can do with pivot picks. I think everyone should start in a constraint variation right here. Just starting here, and I'm going into my pivot pick and coming through, okay? Once we get through those throws are kind of like, okay, I'm ready to throw. A fantastic one I think everybody should do are roll-ins, okay? Do you guys do roll-ins right now? I cannot remember. I don't think you guys do. Okay. Nolan, what are we trying to do when we do roll-ins?
Keep your lower half, your hips directly pointed towards your target, and try and move your torso as much as you can to get that rotation with just your upper half.
Exactly. So our one thing is still his arm path, right? But we're gonna do a drill that puts him in an environment that encourages him to get better at something, okay? So a roll-in is just, I'm going facing my target, okay, and I'm just taking a couple steps. I'm trying to keep my hips facing the target, and I'm turning everything away, and I'm throwing the ball, right? So just because of how I'm doing this drill, I'm trying to create as much hip-shoulder separation as I can, right? And that's something we've all heard, something we're all familiar with, hip-shoulder separation, blah, 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 right? That's just this, right? Trying to separate everything. So, okay, reverse throws. I get my pivot picks in. Now I go through my roll-ins. When you guys are, how many people like to throw the green ball when they're like actually doing throwing stuff? So raise your hand if you like to throw the green ball. Okay, okay. Not a ton of people like to throw the green ball, which is okay. But I think it is something that we should all try and do, okay? I would throw the green ball every day. Nolan throws the green ball every day right now. That is about as far away from a baseball as we can get. And sometimes we need to practice throwing things that aren't the baseball, okay? Because all we do is throw a baseball every single day. And we can throw something like that. It's a little bit different than a baseball, and it's a good new exposure, okay? So with the roll-ins, I love to throw the green ball with roll-ins, okay? It doesn't have to be super high intensity. I'm just throwing the green ball. After we go from our roll-ins, now you can get a little fancy, okay? We can pick a drill like drop steps where my back's to the target and I'm turning and going. We can pick a drill like step behinds where I'm coming here. We can do rockers, or we can do our step backs where we're going into our throw. That one, I like to think of sort of like a feel good that I really feel my one thing that I'm working on click. So like if I have an arm action issue, like step backs might be good because it's gonna help me time my arm action up. If I'm trying to do something with my lower half, rockers might be good because I'm trying to fix my lower half in this, okay? So I think of that middle one as like your feel-good drill. And then the last one that I think everybody should finish with is walking windups. Walking windups is something we're all probably familiar with, where we're just walking in towards our target. And the big thing with those, like I said earlier, everyone in here could probably benefit from it, is we're moving faster. Okay, so when I'm doing a walking windup, if I do a walking windup like this, and then I'm slowing down. The whole point of a walking windup, the whole point of walking in towards the target is so that we can move fast the whole way. I'm not gonna slow down. So the reason that we keep talking about moving fast, at Driveline, all of the fancy data that they collect, there are 3 things that correlate super, super well to throwing velocity. And that is how fast my center of gravity, so like my belly button, moves towards home plate, how fast my shoulders rotate, and how fast my elbow extends, which is a little backwards because we don't throw a baseball like this, but that's a byproduct of everything else happening fast, okay? So in order to throw hard, the bottom line is you gotta move fast. So those drills that we're doing, like a walking windup, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to move fast, okay? So, refresher there, throwing plyos. I should be hot before I'm throwing plyos. I should be ready to go. Then, once we get into our plyos, I have my one specific thing. And I know what that is, and then I'm gonna hit my reverse throws, my pivot picks, my roll-ins, my whatever drill you want, and then my walking windups, okay? Does that make sense to everyone? Plyos? How much of that is useful information that you guys haven't heard a ton of before? A decent amount? Good? Okay. Are we good? I'm gonna keep talking. Just a little checking in. Okay, good. All right. So, moving fast is a huge thing that we all need to do. But I can't show up to the field every day and move fast because I'm going to get hurt. Right? I can't throw the ball as hard as I can every day because I get sore. Like, you just can't do that. So we have like our hybrid Bs, our hybrid As, our recoveries, right? Take those recovery days just as serious as your high intent days and understand that there is a significant difference between those two. So I'm sure you guys have like seen these guys, the pulses, right? Some guys might have used them a little bit. These things are huge for measuring something like that, okay? So everybody at Driveline wears one, everybody throws with one, and we use arm speed is what it's called to gauge intensity. So on a recovery day, I know how fast my arm is moving, and I know that that is like the right intensity for a recovery day. On a high intent day, I know what my peak arm speed is. And then on my hybrid B days, I have like an 80-85% kind of feel there. But funky thing, we can't all use them, right? We're a high school baseball program, it's tough, we can't all use them. So understand, have that insight with your body that's like, on my recovery days, I know what it feels like to make a light throw, right? Like, that is very different than my throw at 200 feet on my hybrid B day, right? And those things are huge. We need to allow our body to recover between throwing sessions. That is the only way that I will be able to throw harder, that I'm going to be able to get stronger, right? It's the same thing in the weight room that I'm sure Ferrati has preached to you guys. You need to be able to recover. And those recovery days with your throwing are just as important in that sense of recovering. We want to move our arm around a little bit. We can't just sit still. So we need to understand what it means to have like a light throwing day. And then on your hybrid A days, your hybrid B days, like those are your times to get after it and actually throw the ball hard, okay? One other thing about throwing that I want to talk about, you guys are all just starting to throw for fall ball again. Some of you guys are probably playing on fall ball teams. Some of you guys have been throwing a little bit. But like, if you haven't, it is very similar to the idea of like, I couldn't just say, hey, go run a marathon. You're not in shape to do that. So these first 3 weeks of your fall ball are an on-ramp, is what it's called, with your throwing. It's all in your track, it's all programmed out in there, and you should take that seriously. So when it says hybrid B day, like that doesn't mean I'm gonna have some fun and I'm gonna pull in. I'm gonna pull down on my way in. Your body's not ready for that. It just simply isn't, and that's how we get hurt, okay? I am a firm believer that I tore my UCL because coming into my senior year of high school, when I tore it, I was playing basketball, and I went straight from basketball into playing baseball, and I said, I'm just going to throw the ball as hard as I can. And I got hurt. And it ruined my college baseball career because I was not fully healthy until my senior year of college. So I spent 3.5 years trying to recover from 2 different elbow surgeries. So take on-ramp periods like this very seriously. Unless you have been throwing frequently, you should not be trying to step on the gas, like at all, okay? I haven't asked Nolan once in the last 3 weeks to like really step on the gas. There have been some days where I've been like, hey, let's try and pick up intensity a little bit, but not once have I been like, let's pull down as hard as we can, because we're not ready for that. Our body's not ready for that yet. So these first 3 weeks of your fall ball stuff, keep that in mind. Let your body get there first, okay? Okay. Last thing I want to talk about is post throw. Oh, I want to talk a little bit about catch play. I'll try and keep it short and get finished up so you guys can go do your thing. Catch play. Just like when we're throwing our plows and we have our one thing, be intentional in your catch play too. Okay? So what that means is like a huge thing that I love to pay attention to in catch play is ball flight, right? So some guys have like arm side run on their fastballs, but some days I'm not getting that arm side run like I normally do. And I want to be able to see that and take note of that and be like, why am I not getting that arm side run? I want to feel it out and try and find my way back to that. Okay? And the other side of that is also like, this is your time to work on command in catch play. How many times do we make a bad throw to first base? How many times as an outfielder do I make a bad throw to a cutoff? Like, your catch play is your time to work on that. I remember my college coach always talked about, all it is playing catch. All it is playing catch. And that's like the cliche thing you hear growing up. And like that I mean, my college coach coached Oregon State when they won back-to-back national championships in 06 and 07. He was all over Division I before he came down to Linfield. And he's still preaching those things. All it is playing catch. So in your catch play, take that time serious to really figure out where my ball moves like this. How am I going to get it to hit someone in the chest? How am I going to get it to hit someone on my glove side? How am I going to get it to hit someone on my arm side? Okay? That is your time to really focus on those things. All right, catch play. Let's move on to post throw, last thing. Post throw. We should never finish throwing and be done and just call it, I'm good for the day, I got my throwing in. Okay? We need to be strong to throw a baseball hard. If, let's say I am a really slow sprinter, okay? And I go to run a mile, and I run a 7-minute mile, and this really fast sprinter is right next to me, and he runs a 7-minute mile too. The fast sprinter is going to be less tired than me because he's not as close to his top end speed while he's running that mile. It's a little bit more complex than that, but picture it like that. If I have two sprinters, one super slow, one super fast, both running a mile. The fast sprinter, they can run at the same speed. That fast sprinter might be a little bit less tired. I want you to think about throwing a baseball the same way. I throw 80 pitches, and I can externally rotate a 20-pound dumbbell. I can internally rotate a 20-pound dumbbell. Guy next to me throws 80 pitches, and he can only externally rotate a 5-pound dumbbell. He can only internally rotate a 5-pound dumbbell. We both throw, let's say, 80 miles an hour. Because I am stronger, it takes less mechanical effort for me to throw that baseball 80 miles an hour than the guy that's not as strong. Does that make sense? So in your post throw, like say you have a hybrid B day, you have a hybrid A day, take that post throw time to get stronger. Hit your bands pretty heavy. Hit your shoulder tube pretty heavy post throw. Do your band pull aparts pretty heavy. Take the taps and do some stuff down here with your wrists, your ulnar deviations, radial deviations, pronation, supination. Take those days to think about getting stronger in your shoulders and your arms and your forearms. And then on your lighter throwing days, your recovery days, take that post throw time to think about it as like stretching. Big ranges of motion. Maybe I'm going to do some dowel rotations with a PVC pipe or a shoulder tube. I might shake the shoulder tube around and move myself around because I'm trying to like restore that range of motion that's lost. Those things are incredibly important to bounce back the next day and throw. Okay? So a little bit of summarizing, like I call this whole idea like arm hygiene, right? Or throwing hygiene. We all have like our personal hygiene, like wear deodorant, brush your teeth. Like these things are the same thing. Like you have one arm, and take care of it now before it's too late, right? So understand what these things are that help me bounce back 4 or 5 days later so I can pitch again. I mean, you think about the best big leaguers, best big league pitchers there are. The reason that they are so good, one of the main reasons they are so good is because they can pitch every 5th day. They can do it. Maybe they're not 98 every 5th day. Maybe there's one day where they're 94. but they're still ready to go out there every 5th day. So if you're not ready to go out there, like say every 7th day for a lot of high schoolers, and someone calls and says, hey, we need you to pitch, and you're not ready, like that jeopardizes you. And the way that we can be ready is by taking care of our arms and taking care of these throwing hygiene things, like warming up to throw, not throwing to warm up, taking our plyo stuff seriously, taking our post throw seriously. Because we want to be ready to throw whenever our name's called. Like, I get pulled up to varsity and coach says, hey, I need you to pitch. I'm like, I'm sore. Well, there goes your opportunity, right? And that's how it is for a lot of like minor league guys that don't make it, a lot of big league guys that don't make it, because they weren't ready when their name was called. And so this stuff is what helps you be ready for when your name is called. Okay? I know a lot of this sounds like I'm directing it to pitchers. Okay? A lot of people, I mean, most people try and pitch, right? But at the end of the day, like, these things are to keep us healthy and to throw harder. Because right now in baseball, velo's king. Throwing hard gets you paid. As a position player, say I got 2 guys that are the same with the bat, same with their gloves, but one guy can throw 86 across the diamond, the other guy throws 76. Who do I want? Who's going to throw more guys out? Same thing in the outfield. I got a guy that can gun someone from a shallow ground ball in right field. He can gun someone at home plate. Or I got a guy that's going to two-hop my catcher. Right? Like, throwing hard matters at every single position. Like, De La Cruz is a hot name in the MLB right now because he's ripping a baseball 100 mile an hour across the infield. And, like, that's really why he's such a hot name. I mean, he hits really well. Yeah. But, like, to see someone throw a baseball 100 mile an hour across the infield is insane. Okay? So, I know a lot of this sounded like it was directed to pitchers, but position players, learn to throw hard because it is only going to help you. It is only going to help you. Now that eliminates me from just playing second base, just playing the right side of the infield. I got a cannon, I can play third base. You could throw me in right field for all I care. Get me on the field, get me in the lineup because I can throw hard. Right? Does that make sense? How much time is that? Cool. Does anyone have questions? Please ask some sort of questions. I would love some questions. Unbelievable. No one's got questions. So,
When you take a long time off from throwing, how should I come back into throwing?
on ramp. Take it serious. So, like, have you been throwing before fall ball started here? Yeah? So, a good rule of thumb, I take 2 weeks off from throwing. 2 weeks off from throwing, it should take me, say, 4 weeks, twice as long, to build back up to where I was when I stopped throwing. Okay? Sometimes, the way the cards fall, we might need to cheat that a little bit, right? But, like, that's always a good rule of thumb. It doesn't just take you a week to get you back into throwing shape. It does not take a week. What's up, Bert?
Should we be taking like rest periods from throwing, or should we throw year round?
Hot topic there. In my opinion, I'm not the biggest fan of rest periods. I think like 2 weeks, 3 weeks off, 4 weeks off maybe is a good thing. But your 3-month rest periods, I'm not the biggest fan of. Now, that does not mean that I should be throwing like in a velo phase or in a long toss phase or in a mound phase all year round, okay? Like, there can be like 2 months where I'm throwing 3 days a week. Just because I want to keep throwing baseball. I want to keep, I mean, the more we throw, like, the thicker our UCL gets, the stronger our forearms get. And so, like, we want to maintain those things. So taking 3 months off from throwing, in my opinion, some people might disagree, 3 months off from throwing sometimes isn't the smartest idea. But, like, your occasional 2-week, 3-week deal, I'm okay with that kind of stuff. Good questions. Anyone else got anything? No? Was that stuff helpful? Yes? Okay. I'm super passionate about this stuff because I had to learn the hard way. And it took me on this path to learn as much as I can about it. I'm around, okay? I'll be around for another 10 minutes probably. And then I gotta go bounce to the weight room. Please ask me questions, ask me for advice, whatever you guys want. I'm here as a resource for all of you, okay? But other than that, go get your blood hot, warm up to throw, right? All right, get out of here. Thank you guys.